What's up, guys? How are we doing? Happy Wednesday. Chuck and Smitty here to talk about DraftKings and FanDuel. NBA Cup games last night, super disappointing. Every game was a blowout. Every fantasy player that we liked did not do well. But we have another slate today. We didn't think we were going to have value. Maybe we got a little that just opened up with this Boston news, but we'll get into that. Smitty, how we doing today?
Doing all right. Yeah, we finally got a nice little six gamer. We can kind of pick some low on plays and hope to ship tonight.
Yeah. We have a couple pieces of value, I guess. We just got Jason Tatum and Drew Holiday ruled out. And so, Smitty, would you say that's probably the starting point for the slate? Boston?
Yeah, they're the only team that's really missing high usage players, so I think it's pretty important.
And I got to think the model's still updating. I did just refresh it, but we only have six players in the rotation right now. I'll pull up my stuff in a moment to see who else we got. But yeah, talk to me about Boston.
Yeah, I think Porzingis is a starting point, which I already liked Porzingis quite a bit even before that news. So now I just like him even more. The game's probably stays a little more competitive. So even then, if you assume we have him for I think 33 minutes, if he plays 30 minutes with a 7K price tag, he probably crushes. And then Pritchard, you've seen anytime someone's out, he don't start most of the time, but he's a six man off the bench. He has a ton of usage. He's just shooting, and Detroit is not a team to be worried about. So I think Pritchard looks like a good mid range value play. And then also, it's going to make Jalen Brown a pretty interesting mid range play, along with Derek White and Sam Hauser.
I like it. And beyond the six guys that we have on the model here, I gave minutes to Drew Peterson, and then I'm not sure what to do with the backup big with Tillman and Cornett and Kada. But that's basically all I have other than these six. So the minutes should be pretty condensed. There's a reason they're pulling a lot of ownership. Are you interested in anyone beyond the players showing on the model?
Not really. The only other name that I'll mention that is showing no ownership right now, I'll be curious if it changes, but I think Al Horford's pretty interesting at only 4,900.
Yeah, I was actually getting some decent exposure to Al Horford. So happy that you mentioned that. I mean, I have exposure to all six of these players, more than 10%. So this is a strong team to target. I do have the most to Derek White right now. I think that's where I'm going to end up just due to the price. And then it's Sam Hauser and Porzingis for me.
Yep. The only issue with Porzingis, I'll say, is he's center only, but there's not a ton of great centers on this slate.
Let's take a look at the other side of this game, Detroit. Now, Detroit was supposed to compete for the cup yesterday. They did terrible. They're not pulling any ownership compared to how much Boston is pulling. We know that Boston kind of plays with their food. They play down to the level of their opponent. I think they specifically mentioned the Pistons when Jalen Brown made that comment, didn't he?
Yeah, he said the Pistons directly.
And so I want to say the line moved back a point or two with the Tatum news, but it's still 14 and a half. This is basically the only game that we're really worried about blowing out today, but I still have interest in getting to these guys. I mean, we're playing all the Celtics, and regardless of blowout, I feel like those Celtics players are still going to play in the fourth quarter, just based on Joe Mazzulla's tendencies. I don't know if Detroit's going to get the blowout run if they're down by like 20, but what interest do you have in Detroit today?
Oh yeah, I think Duran's a pretty good GPP play, along with Cade, and I think Tobias is an okay GPP play. He kind of had a decent game the other day, so maybe he builds on that going against the Celtics today.
Yeah, I like it. I was looking at Tobias, and earlier I was getting more, but we got a couple more pieces of value. So I'm just getting a few percent on FanDuel, a couple percent of Jaden Ivey. But it looks like Cade Cunningham is really the only GPP play that I'm targeting here, and everyone else is a GPP play. But Cade Cunningham, 9,700 on DraftKings is kind of absurd, but I don't know if it's incorrect. At 1%, I'll take some shots. The 9,100 on FanDuel, I'd be really surprised if he only came in at 3%, but I'd like to, I mean, I'm definitely going to be over the 3%.
Yep.
Let's see what we got in the chat, fellas. What up, Jose? Money time? Yes, sir. Porzingis? Yes, sir. The disrespect, the spread on Boston versus Detroit hasn't dropped even with the news. Okay, so it was 14 and a half all day. I mean, should it? Yep, let's roll. Thug a thuggin'. Can we show top Yahoo values when we get time? Yeah, let's take a moment to talk about Yahoo right now. Smitty, what do you got real quick?
Oh man, I'm finishing building my lineups right now. Can we come back to that in just like a couple minutes?
Yeah, Smitty's a Yahoo man now, so we'll get back to that thuggin'. But the value's right here. I mean, Jordan Miller is a guy that we mentioned in the Discord earlier before he was kind of showing up as pulling ownership. But min price, he's been playing minutes, and with the Clippers missing a couple guys, we're going to look at him. I think all these guys are basically playable. I don't like Andre Jackson, but the rest of them I'm pretty into.
Yeah, I agree. I know Miller, Yabusele, pretty much how the model has it. I kind of don't like Quentin Jackson and Andre Jackson as much as the rest of the values.
Yeah, Quentin Jackson, he was pulling more ownership before we got those other values opening up, but I'm still a little surprised he's pulling this much. I know he's cheap, and we really don't have that much value projected for 22 minutes. He didn't get off the bench yesterday with Nemhard back, so he played 0 minutes. The 22, he probably plays around the 22, but I don't know. Models rating him as a pretty good value play. We can get there. I don't know that I'll be with the field on this one, though.
Yeah, I have my Yahoo lineups kind of built. I haven't made any adjustments, but some of my highest exposed plays are going to be Dennis Schroeder, Peyton Pritchard, Yabusele, Cam Johnson. He's available now. I'd probably bring that down some. I don't know if I trust the minutes coming off an injury, but I think McCain looks really good along with Porzingis, Jalen Brown, and then Trenton Watford's another value I was kind of getting to at min price. I think he looks okay.
Nice. Um, So I did mention Drew Peterson not showing up in the model. We haven't probably haven't projected for like 8 or 9 minutes. Smitty, are you interested there at all? He's played 25 minutes in back-to-back games.
Um, he's okay. Not my favorite value. I'd rather play Jordan Miller, but as a GPP play, I don't hate it.
Yeah, I think for me this would be an ownership play. If he's coming in pretty low owned, I'd be interested. If he's not, then probably just try to get to the other guys. But I can't imagine we have him projected for more than 1 or 2%, given that we don't have him projected for 10 minutes. So he could be like a GPP flyer that you mix in. I do think he's kind of deep though. Rather just get to the other Celtics. The Celtics spread was 13.5, then 14.5, dropped to 14. Yeah, I mean, this is just feels like it should be more, even with the players missing. But like I mentioned, Boston just doesn't take games seriously sometimes. Celtics game is not on the main slate. It definitely is. Yeah, the main slate we have 5 games starting between 7:30 and 8 p.m. Eastern. Then we have that island game, the Clippers, Minnesota, that I actually think is one of the more interesting games. We'll get into that in a moment. Oh, you're tripping, right? Smitty, after Boston, Detroit, where do you think is the next spot that we should look to for value?
Um, I won't. Do you want to talk about the Clippers game a little bit?
Yeah, and this is that island game at the end of the night. It's on the main slate on both sites, but I'm getting a lot of exposure to this last game. So let's talk about the Clippers first. I mean, I mentioned Jordan Miller. Tell me about him and the other guys on the Clippers that you're interested in.
Yeah, I like Jordan Miller without KPJ, Terrence Mann, and Norman Powell. They're going to need someone to score, and Miller's shown he could do that. He's been getting the minutes, and especially with those guys out, I think he sees more run. He's shown them that he can score. So I think he looks pretty good, especially at min price on DraftKings. And then it's also going to make Derek Jones have to do a little bit more offensively. I think he looks like a pretty good value, along with Chris Dunn and Amir Coffey, and then it just boosts Harden's ceiling. On FanDuel, I'd be a little more hesitant at 9,800, but 9,400 seems like a really good price on DraftKings.
Yeah, with James Harden, we have him projected for 35 minutes, and I'll point out Zubac projected for 32. I think they could both play a couple more, a little tighter on Harden, but yeah, I'm pretty happy seeing these ownerships. I think I will be over the field on both sides. He's a pretty he's pulling the ownership, but I still think he's a solid GPP play to pay up for today.
Yep.
And yep, we like Jordan Miller's value, and then pretty much all these other guys I'm also getting exposure to: Derek Jones, Chris Dunn, and Amir Coffey. I'm expecting to start these minutes projections. Maybe for Chris Dunn, this is a little high, even with KPJ still out, but the rest of them look pretty good to me.
Yeah. Two other pieces I'll mention is Mo Bamba. He's fine at 3,200. He's center, which kind of sucks. But and then another one, if he happens to run into more minutes, I think Bones is a pretty interesting GPP pivot.
Yeah, Bones. Do you know if he hit the court yesterday?
I don't.
I don't think he did. Oh, he played 7 minutes yesterday, so he is. I mean, he's in there. I was looking at overall usage rates in the NBA the other night. and I think LaMelo's still number one. Giannis is number two, and then it's like number 11 was Bones Island, elite usage. And so, what do we have him projected for? 11 minutes. I mean, 11 minutes at min price. It's possible for him to get there, but if you're playing him, we're really hoping he gets closer to 16, 17, if not, maybe the potential for more.
Yeah.
Minnesota Clippers. And then on the other side of this game, Minnesota, some interesting stuff to talk about here. Rudy Gobert, to me, is a spot that stands out at this low ownership because his minutes, I just feel like, are just underprojected across the industry. 32, 43, 37, 44, 34, 36. And we haven't projected for, 34, 36 minutes. And so I think that's a fine minutes projection, but just the potential that he could play 40 plus in what should be a competitive game against the Clippers. And they just played the Clippers 2 games ago. He played 43. Can't project him for 43, but I think Rudy Gobert is a pretty good spot at under 6%. What else do you like from this Timberwolves team?
Yeah, I agree on Rudy. I like Mike Conley, kind of like Gobert. He's been playing more minutes than most people are projecting. The ownership's kind of there, but he's still under-owned on DraftKings to me, and they need him out there to facilitate this offense. And then I also think Naz Reid's always pretty interesting when he's not getting a ton of ownership.
Yeah, Naz Reid, I'm actually getting a decent amount of over on FanDuel. I tried to get a little more on DraftKings, but I guess we have those min price values, so it doesn't fit in as easily. But Naz Reid, Mike Conley, Rudy Gobert. And then how interested are you in Julius Randle? Because I feel like he's losing minutes. He's only projected for 34, which feels really low. 7,200 on FanDuel is a decent price, but how interested are you in him today?
I'll have a little bit. I think he's okay, but not really a priority for me. Um, Another value I'll mention for them is Nikhil Alexander Walker. He's kind of been getting more minutes with Dante DiVincenzo underperforming.
Yeah, that's a good point. And he's played 25 plus 3 games in a row, dipped to 20, saw 30 there. So this is a pretty good shout. He's not pulling much ownership. You mentioned maybe pulling some minutes away from Dante, but I think Dante's a pretty decent GB play himself at 4,700. We have him projected for 24 minutes, which is probably actually kind of high. But if he does play 24 plus minutes, he's going to look pretty good at this ownership.
Yeah, I agree.
Let's see if we have anything in the chat. Yeah, let's talk about Indiana. So the question is, what about McConnell with players out 5K on FanDuel? So Quentin Jackson's the guy that we kind of expect to step in directly to the Nemhard minutes. What else do you think about Indiana and McConnell?
Yeah, I think Quentin Jackson, he projects as a pretty good value. He looks okay. And then Miles Turner is always going to be interesting at this mid price range. He hasn't really done it this season a ton, but he definitely has a ceiling. And then I think McConnell looks okay. And then Jerace Walker seems like an okay value. We kind of had more open up. I liked him more earlier in the day, but Obi Toppin had a good game yesterday, so I don't hate going there as a GPP play. But I think Matherin's slightly overpriced, and that's pretty much it.
Yeah, Matherin, I was actually surprised I didn't get any on DraftKings and even more surprised at how little I got on FanDuel, but I don't mind him if he shows up in some lineups. I mentioned yesterday on stream, Obi Toppin was showing up as a really good value for me, and I just wasn't having it. And he ended up being one of the best values of the day because everyone else failed. We have him projected for 19 minutes. I don't know. That's probably fair. It even could be a little bit high, but at these ownerships, 3,600 on DK, I'm willing to take some shots there again.
Yeah, I think in this matchup too makes it pretty interesting. Well, I guess they have Claxton back now, but in the non-Claxton minutes, it's possible they don't go real big. Like if they have Ben Simmons out there, they'd be fine running Obi Toppin against him.
And then, I mean, Pascal, to me, he just feels like a guy that you play a bit. I don't have any big takes on him.
Yeah, he has a ceiling. He's kind of overpriced on DraftKings though.
And then Tyrese Halliburton had a good game on the road yesterday. They're on the road again today. The price seems okay at the ownership. People are going to be scared to play him on the road. He's had good road games this year. It's a stat that we use, but it's still possible for him to have a good game at 10 and 14% in a close game. I don't mind getting to some Tyrese Halliburton today.
Yeah, I always prefer him when Nimhard's out, so I think he's pretty interesting.
Nice. On the other side of this game, Brooklyn's pretty interesting too because I'm pretty interested in Ben Simmons over on FanDuel at 5,400. You mentioned Cam Johnson earlier. What other spots are you looking at here?
Yeah, I like Schroeder quite a bit. He's kind of high priced on DraftKings, but if that keeps his ownership down, I like him. And then we got Cam Johnson's a game time decision, but I do like him some. And then Claxton's a GPP play at a 6K price tag. Pretty solid matchup against Indiana with a good total. I think Dorian Finney-Smith's out. Let me double check.
Yeah, I think he just got rolled out. I didn't even notice that till right now.
Okay, yeah, but that's gonna help some minutes on some other guys. Dayron did play good in his debut, so it's maybe he gets more minutes. But I think Ben Simmons looks like a solid play, and then I mentioned Watford for Yahoo at min price. I think he looks pretty solid.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned Dayron Sharp pulling 3%, 1% ownership. I want to say he played, 13 minutes in his debut, but no one's really going to go there today. And it's a spot that I don't mind showing up in my 150 set. He played 16 minutes, actually, 13 fantasy points. Anything else from this team? No. Let's see what we got here. Top FanDuel cash plays. Let me just do a refresh of the model real quick. See if actually let me pull up Brooklyn again real quick. See if it's updated for DFS out. So Dayron Sharp is showing up as, I mean, he's 3,500 with a bad value score, but he's playable, projected for 15 minutes. Schroeder, Johnson, Claxton, Wilson, Ben Simmons is not showing up as good value, but it doesn't take much to get over this ownership.
Yep.
I was going to do FanDuel ownership. Sam Hauser, Porzingis, Jaylen Brown, Giannis, D'Lo, Mike Conley, Amir Coffey, Derek White. You could probably make a lineup with almost all of these guys, given a couple of these guys are value. Is there anyone else that you're thinking about for FanDuel cash?
No, that's probably mainly it. I don't know Jared McCain's price over there, but he's expected to start, so I think he looks pretty solid.
Yeah, I'm just looking at my
6K.
One thing I did do was boost Mo Wagner. Batadze was questionable. Maybe he does play, but either way, I think Mo Wagner looks like a pretty decent play over on FanDuel at 4,600. So if we get that news, he would definitely show up as higher owned, and he would end up being a pretty strong cash play too. And yeah, McCain is starting. Not sure we can trust Halliburton in this road spot. Lots of colleges in Brooklyn. Nice. Is that our Nick? Is that our Nick M? Shout out to Nick, dude. How are we attacking the Lakers? So this is actually the team that I dove the least into today. What do we think here, Smitty?
Yeah, you just know him so well. No, D'Lo's my preferred option from here. I think he looks the best. 4,900 on DraftKings. It's kind of harder to get to him on FanDuel, but he's still pulling ownership. But I think on DraftKings, he looks like one of the better value plays. Point guard only, which kind of hurts him a little bit. And then aside from him, you have Dalton Connect, who also provides some value. We have him at 18% ownership at 4,700. Seems too low. And then AD and LeBron are always in play, along with Rui. I think Rui looks fine.
Yep, agree with everything that you just said. LeBron has missed like 19 threes in a row. He's playing terrible. I really think he needs to be sitting out back-to-backs, the second half of back-to-backs anyway. They didn't play yesterday, so not something we have to worry about today. Projected for 35 minutes. I mean, the price is slightly going down. He's still pulling a little bit of ownership. Model is telling us AD is a much stronger play for a little bit more. And then compared to everyone else on the slate for the studs, I mean, LeBron's down here at 9,500. We have about a dozen guys ahead of him. Some of them are cheaper than him. So model's telling us we can kind of get away from LeBron a little bit, maybe mix in more of these GPP plays like Jalen Johnson, Bam at center. We haven't talked about the Heat yet, but Ant Edwards, Tyrese Maxey, Franz Wagner, I think looks pretty good today. And Derek White, 6,600, probably the best play on the slate overall.
Yep.
And Porzingis too, 7K, fourth overall. Yeah, those are probably the two best plays on the entire slate. Let's look at the Heat side. I'm pretty interested in Bam. What else are you looking at over here?
Yeah, I think Hero's pretty interesting. I think Jimmy, we haven't got any news, right? He's still questionable.
Yeah, I didn't see him ruled in or out.
Okay.
Oh, he's in.
Okay.
Like parentheses Lakers.
Well, I was gonna say with Jimmy out, Hero looked better. I think Hero still looks okay. At 11% ownership on DraftKings, I don't mind taking some shots there. And then the rest of it's kind of just GPP plays. Like Highsmith looks pretty good under DK value. Not sure I love going there, but they're all just value plays you could take shots on and hope they close. That's basically it.
Yeah, that's about where I'm at. And Kevin Love and Jovic. Jovic is available or he's not available?
Yeah, he is.
Okay, so we don't even have Jovic predicted for 10 minutes. He's kind of out of the rotation. Kevin Love, we talk about him 1%. I mean, projected for 12 minutes. He's a guy I stopped crossing him out. If he shows up 2%, I just leave it. Yeah, I don't think there's that much interesting aside from the top guys, though. Let's see. McCain starting, yeah. How much money are we going to lose on Connect again in GPPs? I'm not jamming him today because we did end up getting some other decent values, but hopefully the percent that I do have him tonight ends up winning.
Yeah, the one thing I'll say about Connect is Miami is a 3-point funnel defense, so it's a pretty good matchup for him.
Yeah, kind of like he's either going to put up 14 or 40.
Yeah.
We'll take the 40s. Goga still game time decision. Dude, this guy was a late scratch yesterday. I tried to find out why, if he like stepped on a foot in warmups or something. I didn't see anything, so I don't know how likely it is he plays today. I couldn't find any news, but like I mentioned, I mean, Mo Wagner closed with a blowout run. I don't know how much the cup affected that. He usually doesn't get that final blowout run, but he put up like an extra 14 fantasy points in the last 6 minutes last night, which was huge. I mean, on FanDuel, 4,600 is just going to be wrong if Goga's out. If Goga's in, are you interested? Let's take a closer look at the Magic.
Yeah, I won't have a ton of interest in Mo if Goga's in, but I think he's fine. He's just center only, which kind of hurts.
Yeah, on DraftKings, even at the 4,400 price, center only does hurt. I'm still going to be over the field on both sides. I think if his ownership stays around here, that's a value play I'd like to be over on. I'll be over on Goga probably at 7 and 5%. And Wendell Carter, I mean, he lost the last rotation yesterday. He only played 19 minutes, I think, but 7%. We haven't projected for 26. I feel like that's a high minutes projection, but is he worth taking some shots on at this ownership, regardless if Goga's in or out?
Yeah, I think so. I think he's worth a few shots.
Especially power forward eligibility on DraftKings is pretty huge.
Yep.
And then, I mean, Franz Wagner, I was already trying to get to him before we had the value. Now we have some value. It's not that hard. His price is max, but his usage is sky high without Paolo. Orlando looks like one of the best teams in the NBA. It's not a super tough matchup against Philly. Super low total, though. Franz, how do you feel about him and his ownership today?
Yeah, I think Franz looks pretty good. On FanDuel, I'd be more hesitant to get there at 23%, but at the 12% we have on DraftKings, I think he's a really solid GPP play.
Nice. I like it. Do we think is that? I'm assuming that's Jaylen Brown. Do we think that he's a better play for spending up to Braun? I do.
Yeah, points per dollar wise, definitely.
Yeah, Jaylen Brown is just, I mean, I didn't mention him because I actually didn't notice he was second overall in the model, but Jaylen Brown, Kristaps, and Derek White are just three of the top plays on the slate. You sort by value. That also gives us, I guess Sam Hauser's down here. He's still near the top of value, still very strong value. I thought he was a little higher, though. Maybe on FanDuel. Sam Hauser's number one value on FanDuel at 4,100. Doug, nice. How many Boston players is too much for FanDuel? Let me look through what I have here. Intuitively, what's your answer, Smitty?
I would say 3.
Yeah,
I would play max 3 probably.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm going to set that rule, but scrolling through, I'm getting 2 to 3 in most of my lineups. I have not. I have one lineup with 4. It's my 5th highest ranked lineup, and it has the 4 guys that you would expect. And that's not even considering mixing in Peyton Pritchard, too. So I don't know. That's a tough one. I wouldn't hate setting that rule for 3, but maybe I would be more specific and put that into certain groups.
Yeah, I think like in an optimizer, the pretty interesting rule is like a min 1 Celtic. I mean, you're probably going to get them anyways, but just to make sure you have at least one in every lineup.
Yeah, and then what do you want to do with like Detroit runbacks? I mean, the only one I'm really interested in is Cade Cunningham, so I guess just mix him in a little bit, right?
Yeah, I think Cade, Tobias, and Duran, you can kind of mix them in with some of the Boston players.
Okay, nice. We talk about Philadelphia yet?
No, we haven't.
All right, let's take a look at the other side of that Orlando game. What's the starting point here?
Yeah, it's kind of weird. I expected to see more ownership. Like they're pulling a little bit on FanDuel. Like McCain's 26% on FanDuel. But if you look on DraftKings, they're all the highest owned players, Kelly Oubre at 8%. And I think they all look pretty interesting with Paul George and Embiid out. Maxey looks like a pretty good GPP play. I mean, I get it's a pretty rough matchup going against Orlando, but I think Oubre is really interesting as well at only 5,300 on DraftKings. Shooting guard only kind of hurts. And then I think McCain's a good GPP play there.
Yeah, I'm always interested in Oubre in these kind of situations. And maybe it was over a week ago already. I made a comment on the stream about McCain and Maxey having very similar usage rates when Paul George and Embiid are off the court. And it hasn't changed that much. Maxey's at 32%. McCain is at 29%, 28.5%. So they still both have very good usage. Jared McCain, I mean, 26% is a lot on FanDuel, but my thinking is if he deserves 26% on FanDuel, which he probably does at 6K, he probably deserves a little bit more than 3%, even at the higher price on DraftKings.
Yeah, I agree. And I also mentioned KJ Martin. If he starts again, I think he's worth a shot at only 3,900 on DraftKings.
Yep. Big fan of KJ Martin. He played 25 minutes. Paul George is leaving a lot of minutes to go around, and so I'd like to think he absorbs some of them. Yabusele, we have projected for 31 minutes. It doesn't seem like they want to play Adam Bona that much, but what is this? This should be pretty close to 48 between Yabusele and Bona. No interest in Bona for me. Reggie Jackson was showing up because he's 3,100, but I don't think we have to do that now. But I was looking at Ricky Council as a possible deep flyer that no one's going to project minutes for today. He's not going to show up in any optimizers. Played 27 minutes, 2 games in a row. And Paul George is out today. He did play 10 minutes yesterday. What do you think about Ricky Council as a deep shot value?
Yeah, I like Ricky Council. I actually have him from pretty decent minutes for me, and I think he looks like a pretty solid value play, especially at 0% ownership.
Yeah, I gave him 22 minutes, which is very aggressive, but that's about what I had to give him to get him to show up a few percent. So this is a guy I like mixing in. Very, very risky, but there's a path to him playing more. And we know from preseason, if you were with us there, that he's a pretty good fantasy producer.
Yep. Former Razorback.
Yep. You know that we're always going to have a, an extra liking for Razorbacks.
Yep.
Power with a hot take. Doc and Bickerstaff complained about back-to-backs. Giannis sits. That would flip the slate on its head, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I keep waiting for a questionable, but hasn't happened yet.
Yeah, and it's kind of funny, too, because if we got that news, imagine it comes 1 second after the other 4 games lock, and then, I don't think we talked about the Bucks much. How much interest did you have in Giannis to begin with?
Yeah, I think Giannis looks pretty good. I don't love that he's on the back end of a back-to-back, but this is one of the highest total games, close spread. So as long as he's in, I think he looks like a really good play.
Yep, big fan of paying up for Giannis today. Mixing in some Damian Lillard too, 8,900 on FanDuel seems pretty good, even at the 25% ownership. The other guy I'm getting from this team, Brook Lopez, we have him projected for 33.5 minutes, 4 and 13% ownership. I kind of like getting there over the field. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I like Brook as well. I also like Prince a little bit. I had some pretty good lineups with Prince yesterday, and he kind of went off. But unfortunately, I had like Micic and some other players that didn't do what they were supposed to. But yeah, I think they all look good. A little more hesitant on Dame just because of who's on the other side, but I think he's still fine.
Nice. And is there anyone else on this team? Bobby Portis, is he worth a few percent today? I'd rather just go to Naz Reid, honestly.
Yeah, I agree. He just hasn't been getting the minutes this year.
Yeah, it's so weird, dude. Stock Rivers effect, man.
Yep. Just request a trade.
Smitty, I'm going to let you take this one. Miles or Brook Lopez for center spot in a 25 entry satellite?
Let's see. I would probably say Miles Turner.
Yeah, I think the model's going to have it that way too. Just absolute OF index. We got Miles Turner, pretty good. Brook Lopez, actually a higher value, lower OF index.
So on FanDuel, I'd almost lean Brook, but pretty close on DraftKings.
My thing with Miles Turner is I had the impression that he was a poor rebounder, which I think he was before, but he's a better rebounder now, but he's not the block shotter that we knew him as. And so that just takes away so much of his value for me, because now I feel like when we play Miles Turner, we really just need him to hit 5 threes and get a double-double maybe. Where Brook Lopez, he's had a blow-up game, so that's probably a pretty solid play at lower ownership. Maybe depending on the rest of your lineup, if you need to mix in a lower-owned guy, Brook Lopez. If not, then maybe go with Miles Turner.
Yeah, I'm really glad you mentioned Brook, because I was getting quite a bit of him and I didn't know if I liked it or not. But
I'm not getting a ton of him, but I'm over the 13%, 4% on both sides, certainly. And then the second part of the question, when playing 100-man Does one generally look for chalk players, or do we go more for high risk players?
Now, I'd play pretty much all chalk. You can make one or two pivots at the most.
Yeah, I'm gonna be real in those 100-mans. If it's the FanDuel ones, I don't think you have to make any pivots. Like, because a lot of the time, if you're using the model, you're gonna get a top play that's not chalk, and that's honestly enough.
Yep.
How do we feel about Miller for Clippers single entry DK? I like him. Do you like him enough for your single entry, Smitty?
Yeah, I do.
He's in my single entry right now too. Yeah. We ride with another Occupy Fantasy Value special. Please work. Please work tonight. Can't take it if it doesn't. Doug is sad that Conley's projecting pretty well for him on FanDuel. Let's see.
I like Conley.
Yeah, I had to bump him down a little bit to not get a ton, but to me, he's a guy that fits.
Yeah, he just makes lineups work. He don't have a huge ceiling, but he just kind of gets the job done.
It's like his role on the Timberwolves. Just goes out there and runs the court.
Yep.
For Celtics, is that too much? I don't think so.
No.
Jordan Miller's a baller. Yeah, man. So he's min price on DK on the main slate, but if you're playing the showdown on DraftKings, he's 1K over there, min price. And this has come up a couple times, and it's tough for the min price guy. But if he plays 20 minutes, he's probably one of the better plays on that showdown slate. And so that's the type of play that would make me play the showdown just because he's on it, because he's not going to come in close to 100%. Porzingis is projecting for 60 fantasy points. I'd like to know what site you subscribe to that has that, because I have him for much less than 60. I mean, I'm right around 40 on both sites for Porzingis. I didn't really do too much with him. A little more than 40, I guess. Showing up as a fourth best play on the model, though, overall.
Yeah, and Porzingis at 41.
Okay, so a little more than I mean, we have projected for 33 and a half minutes. Like I mentioned with Joe Mazzulla, maybe Porzingis is different, but I don't think he cares about injuries and stuff. And he just wants to bury teams. But either way, 32 minutes, 25, 23 minutes, Porzingis is doing it. So maybe the 33 and a half minutes projection is slightly aggressive, but even if you take away 2 minutes, project him for 31 and a half, he's still going to project out way too strong at 7K.
Yep. And we just got Giannis available.
Okay, good. I thought you were about to say the other thing. Yeah, and then Goga's still game time. Giannis is playing.
My underdog drafts would have liked Giannis to be out. I know that.
Oh, you faded?
Yeah, well, I planned for him being out. I thought he would sit.
What was his ADP today?
I don't know what his ADP was actually, but I was taking like Portis and Brook Lopez and more Dame than I probably should have.
Well, the Brook Lopez and Dame isn't dead.
No, Portis is.
Portis is dead, yeah. Playing under Doc Rivers, he's not a thing.
No.
We talked about the Bucks. Did we touch on the Hawks?
We haven't yet.
All right, let's talk about the Hawks. What do you think about here?
Man, I really like starting with Jalen Johnson. I think he looks like a really good GPP play. 8,400 on DraftKings. I was trying to look at his FanDuel. FanDuel, he's 9K. Find it a little harder to get to, but on DraftKings, I think he's a really good play. And then for me, I really like Dyson Daniels today. I think Dyson looks like a pretty good play. His price has come down now. He's 6,200 on DraftKings. He's going to have to play all the minutes he can going up against Dame. So I really like Dyson.
I'm pretty interested in Dyson as a GPP play. And then I do like Jalen Johnson as well. There was a comment in the Discord earlier that Jalen struggled against Milwaukee. If I'm not mistaken, the last time he played him was a year ago. And I don't think he was quite Jalen Johnson yet. And either way, his minutes were low in that game. I want to say he played 26 and he had like 35 or 36 fantasy points. He was on pace to smash if he plays the 35 minutes that we haven't projected for. So I have no fears about playing him against Milwaukee. He's 8,400 on DraftKings, under 10% ownership. Even the 9K on FanDuel, I'm willing to get over the field there. And I do like taking shots on Trae Young as well. Didn't think I was going to, but I guess we just have enough value that we can kind of mix him in.
Yeah, I kind of was like that with Trae too, and then I looked at his price and I kind of understood. He's only 8,800 on DraftKings, which is just kind of a misprice. And then Clint Capella, I think, looks like a pretty good center play.
Yeah, I don't mind mixing in Clint Capella. This guy always just gets forgotten. We had terrible centers on the slate a couple games ago. I think That was when Bam failed, Vooch failed, and Clint Capella smashed at like 5% ownership. No one wanted him. Another decent play to mix in today. And I think Okongwu on DraftKings specifically, even though he's center only 4,600 at 6%, that's worth some GPP shots as well.
Yeah, I agree. And then you could always mix in Bogdanovich or DeAndre Hunter. I think they're just GPP plays, but they're kind of that mid range, or they're kind of low price. Bogdanovich is pretty cheap, but just value plays you can kind of mix in.
Yeah, it's so the model has been doing this. It gave it to us yesterday with Micic, where like I think Bogdanovich is a really good value at 4,400 on DraftKings. We do only have him projected for 26 minutes, but just like Micic yesterday, the model is not identifying Bogdanovich as a good value. So I am over this 12% on DraftKings. 4,400 is a pretty strong price for him. I was more interested before we got the other value, but Bogdanovich is still my highest exposed player from this team.
Yep.
Let's see what else we got. LeBron and Porzingis or Giannis? I mean, it's kind of a tough one. Depends who else you get with Giannis, I guess. Give me Jordan Miller all day. Take the overs on Green Bay at Detroit. They're both missing all kinds of defensive players. I like it. Keep that in my back pocket for later. It's hard to play Giannis. Which cheap Clippers do you guys advise? I kind of think all of them are okay, but Smitty, how would you rank them?
For me, it's I like Jordan Miller the most. If we're talking real cheap guys, but I think let's see, probably Jordan Miller and then Coffee for me, and then Derek Jones.
Yeah, I will say that Miller and Derek Jones, they stand out pretty far above the rest of the pack when it comes to DK value. And then Amir Coffee, who I expect to start, projected for 29 minutes, 3,800. I mean, 29% on FanDuel feels a little heavy, but it's probably appropriate for him. Like mixing in Chris Dunn, I think this 29 is kind of high, but maybe he can get there. And yeah, I think James Harden, other than Jordan Miller, I think James Harden's actually the player on the Clippers I'll have the most exposure to, though.
Yeah, I think James looks pretty good, especially
Yeah.
on DraftKings.
Yeah, really like him as a pay up. They're playing Minnesota, but playing Love. Oh, I was like, you're playing Kevin Love today. No, but it's the Packers. Dubs is out. I hope not. I have 5 players on bye this week. I only have Dubs. Bones. Yeah, and Bones is probably worth a couple percent as a mix in too. We haven't projected for 14. He could easily get there in 14 minutes. Like I mentioned earlier, he's like top 15 in the entire NBA in usage rate. And it's like he's sandwiched in between all stars. So when he's on the court, he gets it. And KPJ is not here tonight. So, I mean, Bones, how much Bones are you getting to right now?
I had about what the field has right now, but I wouldn't mind being around there, 8 to 10%. Not someone I want my night depending on, but I think he's a pretty good pivot.
Yeah, it looks like I have 13% on DK right now, so I'm over the field there. And then I didn't get any on FanDuel. Maybe I'll bump him a little bit just to get a couple percent there. Mo Wagner at 4,600 on FanDuel had a monster game last night. What do we think? I will mention that a lot of that came from that last 5 minutes that he normally wouldn't get in normal games, but he got that blowout run because I think the point differential mattered for Orlando since they were losing. But he was already value before that. It's just he's super smashed because of that last 5 minutes. I think, Smitty, you said you're not as interested in him if Goga and Wendell are both in.
I like him more on FanDuel where he has power forward eligibility. On DraftKings, he's a little harder to get to, but if we do get Goga out, I have quite a bit of interest there.
Nice. Yeah, I think, I mean, I'm just guessing he's going to show up as my highest exposed player if Goga's out. Harden gets a 30% usage bump with no Powell, so that limits the minutes projection. Yeah, on Bones, that's the problem. Like, he could have 100% usage, but if he's only playing 4 minutes, how many fantasy points is that really getting us?
Yeah, I'm really surprised Harden didn't get at least a Q tag. Like he's just played so many minutes lately, but I guess he just wants it.
Yeah, I've seen like some Twitter posts talking about like how's no one talking about what Harden is doing right now because he's on the older side for the league and he's doing very well. And I think I'm a little bearish on Harden overall, but I'm pretty interested in him tonight.
Yeah, me too.
Did we touch on every single team?
Yep.
Nice. We have about 5 minutes left. You guys have any last minute questions? Please throw them in the chat. We do have the Discord live starting a half hour later today because Locke is a half hour back. So that'll be at 7 EST with DFS Jayhawk. Smitty, for our dummy today, who's the first player in?
Um, I would say for me it's D'Lo.
All right, let's plug in D'Lo. Gross day when that's the answer. All right, after D'Lo, who's the second player in?
uh, let's go Porzingis.
All right, let's do Porzingis. I think we got to plug in Derek White.
Yeah,
Are we
man.
just gonna do all three of them?
Yeah, I'd say we have to go either Brown or Pritchard
Brown or
or both.
Pritchard? Pritchard's more value, so that's my first instinct. And I mean,
Yeah,
in terms of exposures, am I getting more? I'm getting more Pritchard than Brown on DraftKings right now.
yeah, me too.
All right, let's put in Pritchard, and then I mean, this is tough. Like that question about max Celtics. What rules would you set?
Yeah, I was kind of thinking about that too, but I don't know. Like you wouldn't want. I don't think you would want Brown, Pritchard, and Porzingis together because they all kind of rely on scoring. Like Porzingis could get there in other ways, but I just think them two are so scoring dependent, or them three are so scoring dependent. Like Derek White does a little bit of everything, so I think you can leave him by himself.
Okay. Yeah, because I don't think I want to set like max one Derek White and Pritchard. That doesn't seem right. Like
No,
max one Porzingis and Jalen Brown is incorrect.
it's
So
really, really tough.
yeah, I think I might just leave it and then kind of scroll through and make sure I don't have because I'm not getting five Celtics in any lineup. I didn't set a rule for that. So as long as I'm not getting five Celtics on DraftKings, I'm probably
Y-
okay.
Yep.
All right. So beyond the Celtics, sorting the model by DK value. Um, Jordan Miller, is he good enough for? I mean, top of Occupy model value, probably lower owned. This is like the Occupy value special.
Yep. Let's do it.
All right, let's do it. It's going to open up a lot with that min price. Jordan Miller, just please play 20 minutes, dude. I mean, if we get this 24 minutes that he played yesterday, there's no Norm Powell today. There's no Terrence Mann today. I mean, he could play more.
Yep.
Leaves us 7,600 for three positions. I mean, did we want to squeeze Giannis in here?
Yeah.
All right, top of model value. Jalen Brown's number two. Giannis is a power forward. 5,400 for two positions. Sort by value again. I mean, we could slide in like Derek Jones. I don't know if we want to do Quentin Jackson here.
Yeah, I'm cool with Jones or Coffee. I think both are fine.
Jones or Coffee, are they the same price? All right, they're essentially the same price, so kind of the same thing here. Let's do Coffee since he's 100 more. Leaves us 7,100 for utility to get to Matherin, Turner, Zubac, who I think are all pretty decent plays, or maybe you spend up somewhere, get to Gobert as a decent tournament shot. I mean, maybe you swap out. I don't even know who you could swap out. Well, Giannis, obviously. I mean, because you plug in like a Jalen Johnson right here, maybe.
Yeah.
Leaves you 10-8 to get to Anthony Davis in the flex.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, this 3K just opens up so much, and he doesn't have to do that much. It's just if he puts up like a 20 plus fantasy point game, that's kind of just like a bonus.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
he has. Go ahead.
Yeah, and like if a Giannis goes for 70 or an AD goes for 60 to 70, like you're gonna need that.
Yeah, and if he helps you fit him in, I mean, just don't pull a Micic. He's probably better than Micic in real life, but Micic got benched yesterday, and it just sucked. Whoever asked about KJ Simpson yesterday, I'm so sorry, dude. Bad analysis, man. That guy ended up being the ultimate pivot somehow.
And I actually mentioned him in the Discord too. I was
Yeah.
like, KJ Simpson, I was like, it might be a little thin for this slate, but man, I should have done it.
You said two things in your Discord live yesterday that I was like, I should have asked Smitty about that before the stream. But I mean, that's why we're a team here, though. That's why you get a few different perspectives.
Yep.
Is Rui in play today?
Yeah, I think Rui's a pretty solid play.
Yeah, I think he's in play. He wasn't pulling ownership, right? 50. Oh, he is pulling ownership.
Now he has a good eligibility though. Small forward, power forward on DraftKings, I think just kind of fits.
Yeah, I was kind of hoping that he was lower owned, so I could probably play him close to this 20 and 25%. Actually, didn't get as much though, but I'll probably play with that a little bit to get a little bit more. McConnell, he's okay.
He's fine.
Yeah, guy who I was typically trying to get over the field on every day. Nemhard's out, so maybe a little more opportunity for him. I don't know that I'll be over the field on him. He's in my exposures, though. I definitely had some percent on both sides.
He was in some of my better lineups yesterday. Somehow I
Yeah.
played a little bit.
Cam Johnson's in. I think he's an okay GPP play with him in. I don't mind getting there a little bit. Tyrese Martin. Did we get that starting lineup?
No, we don't have it yet.
Okay. So what starting lineup are we looking at? Dennis Schroeder.
Cam Johnson, Claxton, Ben Simmons.
You think I'll start both?
Oh yeah, never mind. I don't know.
I would say one of Simmons or Claxton with Wilson and Tyrese Martin. I think.
Yeah, it's kind of. And they just have so many dudes.
Yeah.
And they're all like the same player.
Yeah, power threw out Tyrese Martin. I will say he smashed last game, but he didn't get there until he got he checked in with like a few minutes left and got the end of garbage time, and he did some stuff there. But if he has a potential to play those garbage time minutes, we only have him projected for 0% ownership. I don't think I got there in my exposures, but I guess, I don't know. Is that a guy that we should have interest in today, or are the other spots that we got too strong?
Yeah, I think the other spots are better, but I don't hate taking shots.
Yeah, I don't hate taking shots either. Do we ever set max player rules when using optimizers? I don't.
No, not max exposures. No.
Yeah. Like max players per team. Maybe if it's like a 2-game slate and I'm getting a bunch of lineups with 5 players from one team, but then if you're using an optimizer and that's what the optimizer is telling you is good, then sometimes you got to just figure out how much you have to listen to that and just run with it.
Yeah, instead of max exposures, I like just changing projections.
Yeah, changing projections, and then if you're using an optimizer that allows you to use uniques, I think that's probably the best way to differentiate your exposures.
Yep.
Does Ricochet start? Probably, right?
Yeah. I think they just go with the same starting lineup.
Trey's in. Hauser 4,100 on FanDuel. Yeah, I think we're both pretty big fans of Hauser on FanDuel. I mean, he is the chalk today, right?
Yep.
Yeah, no problem. I mean, we got to be really careful with these 100% plays, but like, is Hauser a player you're comfortable in maybe like 70+% of your lineups, or not quite?
Yeah, I would say so, especially in this going against the Pistons.
His FanDuel value is 19. Second closest players are Derek White and Derek Jones Jr. at 15. Jordan Miller's a strong value on FanDuel too at only 7%. Keep that in mind. Yeah, I mean, Sam Hauser, I think we just got to run with it. 4,100, and he actually kind of does more than just hit threes now. So,
yep,
very strong play. Is there anything else you wanted to mention before we got out of here?
No, I think that's pretty much it.
All right. Well, appreciate you. Thanks for joining me today. Fellas in the chat, really appreciate you hanging out with us on this Wednesday. Jayhawk will get started in about 25 minutes if you want to join that. The instructions are in the description below. Good luck tonight. We'll see you tomorrow.